You can tell a man's strength not by how loud he speaks, but by how calm the room feels when he walks in. Every man says he wants to be attractive, so confident, respected, and admired. But true attractiveness isn't built on your look or your status, but it's built on grounded masculinity, which is the quiet strength that makes people feel safe around you. Howdy, my name is Nolan T. Painter, an aspiring young man with more ambition than anyone will ever understand. And today I want to talk about something deeper than confidence, the art of containment, empathy, and grounding as a man. So let's start with the first, which is what grounded masculinity really means. So most men think attraction is about like teasing or charisma or confidence, and those are all good, but in reality they're surface traits. If you look into the deeper layers of attractiveness, you find grounded masculinity. And what makes grounded masculinity different from this overall societal idea of what masculinity is, albeit the successful man, like Andrew Tate, who's muscular and rich and healthy and, successful and authoritative. Grounded masculinity is your ability to remain calm, consistent, and emotionally anchored, especially when there's like a feminine individual within the surface of the area, or when the world becomes chaotic. So a grounded man is safe, not because he's perfect, but because he's present. And that's what makes this so important in men, because ultimately becoming successful, so rich and wealthy and healthy and ripped, that's about 10% of it, right? You can be a rich man and a strong man, but not a good man. Being a good man is the 90% of it. Being a good man is having the right mental authority, the right mental drive, and that comes from being grounded, right? People often say that you have to do this and this to be a man, but the reality is a good man, a good father, is grounded, right? He reflects upon his emotion and acknowledges the things that often people in society tell men to reject. And he leads in truth while acknowledging his faults, and that allows him to be more empathetic towards others. And you'll see why later, how that's so important to being a good man and what makes you more attractive as a good man. Because a good man doesn't control his emotions, he contains them. And that's different because someone who controls their emotions is someone who's willing to reject and someone who's willing to abandon their emotions. But someone who contains them, analyzes and reflects them, and then holds them in place, which is different from controlling, because when you're controlling, you're trying to ignore them and just put them away. But by containing them, you are holding them away from other people that might otherwise hurt them, or otherwise they might not understand them and get damaged by the lack of understanding. And thus you'll lead in truth, which is different from leading in logic, because logic can be twisted, but truth is consistent. And consistency is important. So, let's begin with containment. Containment is how masculine strength becomes love, and we know love is sacrifice. So containment means you got to give space for emotions to exist without judgment or panic. So you need to create an environment in which someone is able to be emotional, or where someone who is emotionally driven and charged can be open. So that means whatever the space is, whatever the environment is, you need to make them feel safe. Because when someone, especially women, or emotional people, you got to realize you can't just fix them or lecture or compare them, right? And that's really difficult for men. Men often look at women, or especially women, but just generally emotional people, and they try to provide solution. Now, the truth is you can find a balance here. You can provide a solution, but it's not what you think it is. The solution isn't giving them details on how to right the action or how to right their wrong. The solution lies in the resolution of the conflict. The solution lies in creating a safe area for them to be emotional, right? If a woman is crying, you don't tell her to stop crying because there's no reason. You just hold her and give her an emotional space to let her cry and show her she's safe. I'll touch on this a bit later, but essentially, women have this sixth sense that allows them to be incredibly in tune with safety. And women are very attracted to environments and people that make them both physically and emotionally safe. But containment also has boundaries, right? Loving men know when emotions become unhealthy or cyclical. So in an environment where someone is becoming dangerous because they're falling into their own emotional loops, or they're going to go out and yell at someone else. A man knows when to set boundaries to keep people safe, to keep things contained, because containment prevents further spread. And as a man who wants to solve problems, you need to keep things isolated, but in a healthy way. That doesn't mean controlling things and managing how everything works. It just means preventing things from getting worse, right? And when you're looking in the area of giving space, which means giving them the ability to share their emotions as much as possible, as opposed to boundaries, which is preventing the sharing and spread of emotion, you need to just hold them. You got to breathe. You got to listen. You need to allow. Where with containment, look at like a fatherly man. He'll create structure and safety, even when in those moments of emotion, and all that structure and safety permit the sharing of emotion to be healthy and reasonable rather than dangerous. So if you have a girl, right? Yeah, like a girl, like a girlfriend is crying. You don't really got to rush to fix it. You just have to sit beside her, let her feel, and when she's ready, you can say, you're safe, I'm here, and that would be containment. And this is important because you're getting two things out of it. One, well, she's given time, and this is a big one because everything takes a lot of time. As a man, you can tell a man to cheer up, he shouldn't be upset because XYZ, and then all of a sudden he's happy. But a woman, it takes a long, long, long time, and that's beautiful. So what do you get out of it? Well, what you get is you actually make someone happy as opposed to being sad, which is, that's a good drive. And the second is you actually build your relationship with them, because you just spent time with someone, which shows you're safe, it shows you're trustworthy, and it makes her care about you more. And she should care about you more because you took the effort to care about her in those moments. So it's rather selfless, and you're benefiting from your selflessness, which is hard to wrap your head around, because often in society we only look at selfishness as the only way to gain. But in truth, you can get so much more from being selfless than you can from being selfish. Anyways, so let's move on to the next section. Empathetic attunement. So attunement means feeling what others feel while also staying grounded yourself. So if you see someone who's like going crazy, they're really upset, you can feel that, but you stay grounded in truth. Again, not logic, because logic can be twisted and based on your belief, but truth is the reality. So you got to somehow make your own vision of the world, somehow understand what they're saying, and then somehow also keep yourself grounded as like a pillar. So wherever they're straying away from, you know exactly how far they're from, and you know how much work needs to put in to healthily bring them back. And it's important that it's healthy, because people, when I say these things, they're going to assume you're grabbing them and pulling them back. No, you're caressing them, holding the spread, and they're going to walk with you back. That's the importance of it. So you're not going to drown in their emotions in this, when you're a pillar, when you're straight, you're not going to drown in their emotions. You're just going to stand in the water with them, right? It's important to have faith in yourself and to have faith in the truth in the world, because the truth will keep you grounded, and the truth will keep you resonant, or keep you resonating with what's important, rather than falling into the cyclical nature of just being constantly getting more and more upset, especially when you're around people. That's how you get huge political parties that get further and further more extreme, because everyone's upset and then they're surrounded only by upsetness. So the expectation, or the boundary gets constantly pushed further and further as people get more and more upset. And when you have rigidness set in truth, you're able to keep almost like the standard of where we should be, and by establishing that standard, you can be healthy in bringing people back. And that will improve your relationships, as I said. So this balance allows women, friends, and even other men to trust you, because it shows that you're grounded in truth rather than some nonsense. And you can't attune to others if you've really never attuned to yourself. And this is an interesting thing, because so many men really want to help others, which is good. But a lot of those men suffer to really help themselves, which is a bit of a problem when you think about it. Because if you want to be someone who's good at helping others, you got to help yourself first. Right? And let me explain to you this way. If you want to be a health coach, like a bodybuilder coach, or someone who just gets people in the gym, if you're a fatso, do you think people are going to trust you? But if you're an insanely lean and just ripped guy who obviously looks good, or looks like he's been to the gym a couple times, people are going to trust you more. And a woman especially, but just good, wiser people, are really emotionally in tune to others. Again, women especially. So they're going to tell and realize when you are like a pillar in the ocean, and when you're standing straight and you're not, deviating to any specific side, and when you're grounded in truth. They're going to tell this because they're going to recognize, all the things you've overcome in your own all the things you've overcame in your own life. For example, I've overcome a lot of like depression, a lot of suicide, a lot of frustration, a lot of like just a lot of harshness in my life, and I'm not letting that drag me down. In fact, I'm allowing it to make me more emotionally in tune with myself, which thus allows me to be more emotionally in tune with others. And because of that, because I've had this reconciliation with myself, I can set the pole in the sand or in the ocean or wherever it is, but as long as it's in truth and as long as it's still, which is important, and people will recognize that and flock to me or come to me for help. And that's the greatest privilege as a man. That's the greatest reward. Because people think the best reward as a man is people going, "Oh, wow, you're so smart," or "Wow, you're awesome, let me give you this," or "You're good." But the reward isn't the compliment. The reward is people coming to you for help. The reward isn't someone going, "You're smart, I trust you." It's them naturally just coming and trusting me. The reward is the trust, not people saying that they think I'm worth it. And that's difficult, but you need to rewire yourself to not have this expectation for compliments, but you need to have this desire for people to trust you. And this is important because it'll push you to be a better man. So, again, you got to give yourself empathy first. You got to empathize with yourself. You got to feel your own emotions deeply and importantly without shame. Because if you're shameful for your emotions, are you not to feel shameful for other people's emotions? And then how can you help them? So a fast way to start would be like mirroring body language, tone, and rhythm. So when someone else speaks, you got to mirror their body language, and then you can think about how they are feeling in yourself. So if someone's crying, then look more sad, and then you can feel a bit easier how you're feeling or how they're feeling. But this also shows presence, and it shows a shared experience because now you can relate to them. And then there's a bit of a slower way, and that comes from just naturally being more empathetic to yourself. And there's nothing wrong with that. It just takes a bit longer. If you need to help someone in the moment, then you can try and reflect from them. And if you want to help people over a longer time, then just be healthier to yourself. So to lead others emotionally, you need to first be fluent in your own emotions, which is important, but also very difficult. Okay, so the next one, which is really the grounding step. So a grounded man restores the peace to chaos. A grounded man is like doing all the things we've talked about and then just bringing it back to the center. So in a moment of panic and uncertainty, right? So like, let's say someone's worried about the future or worried about the past, which if you think about it as a man, you shouldn't worry about those things. But the importance is that they're worried, not what they're worried about. So your calm would be their anchor. Your calm would be bringing them back to where they think they should be. If you're insanely upset and freaking out, they're going to think that's the norm. But if you're calm, they're first of all going to feel safe, which is insanely attractive. But most importantly, they're going to realize the pillar or the center is how you feel, which just so happens to be this neutral or good or healthy ground. And it naturally pulls them back to that area. So, in these environments, you shouldn't explain things logically, and you shouldn't try to tell them everything is fine, because it's not fine. And maybe with a guy, you can try and logically explain things to him and he'll be good. But with a girl, they're too caught up, and the truth is, and this is really difficult for men to understand, especially myself, they don't want a logical solution, they just want to be happy. So you need to show that happiness through your body. You need to show how they should be feeling through your own actions rather than telling them how to do it, which is really, really difficult. So a good way to think about this is like taking slow breaths, lowering your voice and being still. And this allows to set a standard of how we should behave. But it also allows, by you being this emotional barrier, for them to freely just run about with their emotions, right? Think of it like this. Imagine you're sitting on a bed and you're holding your girl, right? And she's crying. And you're holding her in her arms and she's just crying. You're keeping her still. You've set up the fence and she can run wherever she wants. It's not going to harm anyone. You're still and you're not freaking out yourself, so it's a safe environment. She knows you're safe, she trusts you, you're building your bond, and she's getting out her emotions. You're not telling her to solve them, you're just telling her to experience them, which for a woman is equally as equally as important as it is for a man to solve his emotions, which is interesting, and it's hard for us to reconcile with, because men pride themselves on building this portfolio or perspective on the world, which is why we mansplain, because that's just us sharing it, and that's what I'm doing right now. But in that portfolio, in that perspective we have, we seem to miss out on others, and we're just focusing on our own thought. And in doing so, we forget on the fact that women are kind of like the opposite side of the same coin. Not necessarily opposites, but they're almost reflections. So they don't want the solution, they just want to feel it. And this is important because when you're reflecting her, or when you're just pausing and being this pillar and being this stone wall where she can run free around and feel your safety, she'll feel that in you. And she does this because our nervous systems can be in tune with each other, right? You can feel when someone else is like nervous or upset, and you can feel someone else's system of their body. Like you can tell when someone's anxious, you can tell when someone's emotions are running wild, right? So when you walk into a room and the environment is very still and calm, you yourself will be calm. But if it's hectic, then you yourself will be hectic. So this is co-regulation. This allows you to regulate her in a very healthy way by yourself just being calm and being in a good environment. And the safety isn't said, it's felt. You don't tell her to be safe. You're going to feel the safety between you two. So if she's anxious about something in the future, you got to remind her through yourself. Whoa, pardon me. I'm very tired right now, but we're thugging it out. So if this girl in this scenario, she's really worried about something in her future, you got to remind her through your stillness. Like right now we're safe. Right now we're here. We're doing okay, right? Think of it like this way, and I'll give a bit of a good example in just in a moment. But think of it like a man's steadiness really teaches the world that it's safe to breathe again, right? And look at this as an example, just to make the separation between man and woman clear. If a man comes to you and says, he has autism or he has this and that, and he trusts you, the logical answer as a guy would be, okay, man, thanks, I appreciate it. I got a bunch of buddies with that type of condition, so I understand, and I'll help you out. But with a woman, you don't say any of that. You say, thank you very much. I really appreciate that you said that. It shows, well, not even that. Hold on, let me fix that. You would say, someone's going out. Police are out tonight. You would say, thank you, I appreciate that you said that. It means a lot to me. Thank you very much. And the difference is, in one situation with the girl, you're validating her and you're just caring for her emotions. Because she told you those things because she feels like she'll be safe and validated, not because she wants you to know that you're adequate for the task. But on the man's side, he doesn't care about a validation. He just wants you to know and set a bar of expectation for you to pass. So as a man, he wants reassurance, which is why boyfriends often stress out when they're not reassured, because guys want to be reassured. They want to be told, yeah, man, I got a bunch of friends with autism, so I totally know what you're going through. It's all good. So that way there's no worry about the adequacy or how effective he will be around dealing with situations. But on the woman's side, she trusts you that you can already do that, so she's telling you. That's why she told you, because she already trusts you. So you don't got to convince her. And more importantly, in doing that, without realizing, you're taking the spotlight away from her, which is damaging because it shows that you're not adequate in the sense that you're taking things away from her, which frustrates her. She'll call you like all these poor names and be upset with you, and you won't even realize it, but it's because without knowing, you took that spotlight away from her. So again, that was just a side tangent to kind of give the perspective on how men and women work differently. And I know those were very black and white perspectives, and it absolutely is a grayscale, and you'll see based on the environments, but with understanding that foundation, you can then grow a lot more. So we got to work on now, integrating the feminine within yourself. So the strongest men make peace with their own softness. I talked about earlier how you need to reconcile with your own difficulties as a man to then become a better man to work with others. And that comes from experiencing challenge. I experienced a lot of challenge, and reconciling with those emotions has allowed me to be more confident in helping others, kind of like the whole situation, weak person versus strong person giving gym advice, right? So a masculine man that rejects his emotion is going to really become rigid and cold and be not very safe to be with. But a masculine man that integrates his emotion into his life is going to become very peaceful and strong. And here's the interesting part. Even while integrating emotion into your life and being emotional and empathetic, you can still lead in truth. A masculine man is someone who recognizes emotions, appreciates them, talks about them, is a caring person, and makes people feel safe. But, at the end of the day, leads in truth, because a man is all about progression, and you can't be, steering off into the wrong way. You got to be progressing down the perfect line in truth. So in doing that, you can still balance. You can still have this beautiful amount of feminine emotion, so you can in tune with woman's femininity. Because a masculine man will make a woman more feminine, and a masculine man is prepped for those emotions. He's ready for them, right? If a woman is emotional to you, if you crumble, you're not a masculine man. You're just weak. You're pathetic. So a masculine man, someone who's really good, is prepped for those emotions. And in doing so, he will make a woman more feminine. If a woman feels comfortable and safe to be more feminine, then you're probably doing a good job as a man. So the true balance is really knowing your emotions without letting them control you. And you got to have people love your tenderness, right? So you got to love your tenderness. You got to love your empathy. You got to be patient. You got to reflect. And that is what allows you to support others. Because you can't lead the feminine if you hate it within yourself. And by acknowledging that, you yourself can be more masculine. So, just to close now, a good man doesn't demand praise for being strong. The reward he feels from others, feeling safe, is enough. And he's not chasing this attraction from other people. He wants to build safety so people feel comfortable coming to him. It's the whole saying of, build a garden to get butterflies instead of trying to chase and capture a butterfly type, right? This is growing your garden. Butterflies will come to you. And, growing your garden is meaning this, right? Growing your garden isn't just going to the gym and doing this and that and being successful and making money and shaving your head because you want to be strong, right? Growing your garden comes from just having the right mindset and being emotionally available. Butterflies come to a garden because they think it's safe. So if you're chasing after butterflies, you're not safe. And if you're building the wrong things, then you're also not making things safe. So you got to build a garden. You got to be a warrior in a garden. And a masculine man, is a perfect example of that. He's a warrior in a garden, right? He's comfortable and safe in the garden, but he's a warrior at heart and he's ready to lead. That's what a man is. That's grounded masculinity, right? They're the quiet force who holds love, protects peace, and brings order to chaos. That's what it means to be a good man. My name is Nolan T. Painter, and thank you very much for watching.